Hey Mark, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for agreeing to join me on Drag and Drop. I know that you're kind of, always quite busy, so I appreciate you taking the time to join.
No problem.
It'd be good to start with a bit of an introduction and background to yourself for those who, may not know about you.
Yeah, no problem. Hi, I'm Mark Bradley. I work for the Arch company, but before that, I've been in technology over 20 years. But I won't tell you my age. So I finished university back in the 90s and really didn't know what I wanted to do. I did a degree in mechanical engineering and then I stumbled on the Java course and absolutely loved how using coding can answer business goals or challenges, should I say. But since then, I got a job in development. I was worked my way through from a junior up to a senior, and then I worked for a company called Workspace, which is a flex office provider in UK. And at Workspace, I led a transformation program using which I thought back then was a low code platform, but I used Dynamics CRM.
Okay, yeah.
Which I think is which I view as a combination of low code and some high code. But I managed a program for Workspace for about eight to 9 years, and then moved to ArchCo, which I'm where I'm at now, and we fully adopted a low code platform, which is obviously OutSystems.
Yeah.
Which obviously hopefully we'll talk a bit about today.
Yeah. I didn't realize when I was doing my research that you and Tim worked together at the previous company and then
That's
came
right,
over to Arch. Yeah, which is
so
really
at Workspace is where we met each other.
Yeah.
Prior to that, hadn't known Tim and obviously working together, sort of brings out the best in us. We're very like-minded in our view of how technology can change business.
Yeah. And speaking about Arch, can you tell us a bit about Arch and its activities?
Yeah, sure. I mean, ArchCo, as in the name suggests, we fundamentally own and manage railway arches in the UK, mainly England and Wales. There's a lot of Victorian-built bridges. Which have arches underneath them. So back in 2019, we purchased those arches off of Network Rail. And so we basically run and manage those arches, from looking after customers ranging from restaurants to cafes to MOT garages, etc. We mainly small, medium businesses. Since 2019, we're sort of trying to improve our customer experience, modernizing our operations, and basically like trying to drive some innovation through through technology.
Yeah, and obviously, we know you're using OutSystems, but and because I know you well, and I know obviously that wasn't the first time you heard of OutSystems. So can you tell me a bit about when obviously you thought at first, Dynamics was in the low code space. When did you actually hear of OutSystems the first time?
Well, it was working at Workspace where there was a particular requirement for us to build out a sales application that had mobile capabilities. Now, with Dynamics, you couldn't really do that, and the alternatives were Power Apps. And so, really, I looked to see what was on the market to be able to deliver such features. So, I came across OutSystems and started to look under the hood, and actually started to think, well, there's not a lot in a sort of business environment that OutSystems couldn't deliver, as well as the mobile application, the particular things that Workspace were doing. I could see how that would translate across from Dynamics into OutSystems. And so that was really my first sort of introduction to OutSystems, and kind of I looked at, did some training and, really, got my hands dirty, as I said, that's where I really come from as being an engineer, and just seeing where I always find where the gap is,
Yeah.
and if there's a gap, and really couldn't see that with OutSystems. So unfortunately, we didn't use OutSystems. Budget, etc., didn't meant that we chose something else. But yeah, that was where I was kind of introduced to OutSystems.
And then when you joined Arch, and you mentioned obviously you were looking to improve things there, was kind of OutSystems top of your mind because of that experience? Was there something that, was there already discussions going on, or was it something that you felt, okay, for what we need to deliver at Arch, I've now played with this platform. And like you said, you will try, obviously most engineers will try and find something they can break or something that doesn't work. And you managed to obviously successfully get through it, So was that something that kind of you drove to kind of get OutSystems adopted?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like you mentioned, Tim and I
Yep.
have worked together in the past. We do have similar views, and
Mm.
obviously, when he approached me about coming over to Arch, we were always talking about like what would we use to accelerate
Yeah.
the transformation program, because you know with ArchCo there was a lot to do, and in a short space of time to do it. So how could we accelerate that roadmap? So obviously having knowledge of not only Dynamics but like
Yeah.
Salesforce or other business systems, and had exposure to OutSystems and other low code like Mendix, and we sort of looked at what one really suited the current architecture of ArchCo, because obviously they had certain technologies that they were using. So we obviously had to work out what was a best fit. And OutSystems just sort of ticked all the boxes, and so that was really the way that we chose it. Obviously, you always do a matrix of
Yeah.
the platforms and where the gap was, and really OutSystems just fitted all of the requirements.
Yeah. Yeah. And can you, after kind of, choosing OutSystems, can you talk me through the implementation process, right? The kind of, where you started, the quick wins, the challenges, all projects have challenges, there's early kind of settling things where you had to go through.
Yeah, I mean, when I arrived, we'd already embarked on a project, and we used an external to deliver that. So that was one of the challenges that we had when we started, was the handover
Yeah.
from an external to us. But really, the first thing for me was to lay out the roadmap. There's all it's all well and good adopting a new technology, but then how do you then embark on making that part of the transformation program, and getting adoption within the business, and also finding out where the challenges are in the business, because also you can create a roadmap, but it may not align with the business goals. So yeah, the first thing to do was to really document what the projects were, and sort of business benefit, and then prioritize them in a way that made sense. There were projects which were smaller and some
Yeah.
that were bigger, and so you kind of had this staggering of delivery of projects. But an example of one of the bigger projects that we did at the beginning was around space or property life cycle, and how we deliver that space back to market. Was when when I first joined, there was, I guess, lack of knowledge around where space was in that process. So we put that capability into our platform, which we call Keystone, by the way. So if I keep
Yep.
mentioning Keystone,
Yep.
it is to do with this platform, but we put functionality into Keystone that allowed us to track where space was, whether it had, whether it was going through an extensive capital expenditure program, or whether it was doing something, having a lick of paint or new roller shutters or whatever it would be. But understanding where space was in that life cycle, and really from that we're able to, as a business, understand where the challenges were, where the bottlenecks were, because what we were finding was space was taking too long to get back from the customer saying they're unfortunately leaving us, to us being able to then lease it to a new customer. It was just taking too long. So that was all done within our OutSystems, and it was done in a very agile way. And when we were doing that process, it was all new to the people we were doing it with as well.
Yeah.
They hadn't gone through a software development life cycle, so it was all new. But it was a good learning curve because everyone then understood the challenges of doing it.
Yeah. And you mentioned obviously external and then going, hand over internally and the challenges. Was the plan always to go that way, that in that direction where build out your own capability? Because obviously a lot of companies, sometimes they stick to external, right? Or they'll do a bit of both. Was that kind of just something that was part of the strategy?
So the strategy was always to build not buy. I think that's one, rather than buy something off the shelf and sort of integrate them together is like, what you need. But the mindset was to always have in-house capabilities, whether that's through permanent staff or through contractors working in the team. It was always the goal to build that capability in-house and also build the connections to allow us to expand the team if need be, expand and shrink capabilities. Because, like I said, around our transformation program, over the last 6 months, we've accelerated again, and the business wants things quicker, which all businesses seem to want, unfortunately. But that means that we have to be able to expand the capabilities. But obviously, if you have an external company doing half of your development, that makes it quite challenging because sometimes you have to layer in waterfall style project management. Define everything up front. Make sure you've got clear, requirements and objectives. And for ArchCo, that would have been really challenging because I think, this particularly software lifecycle is new to some people in this business, and understanding what requirements are and what good requirements are has been challenging. And I think doing development in-house has meant that actually we can iterate through those requirements and you almost get a better product because of that.
Yeah. And, talking about your internal team, and obviously, like you said, you go through challenges and it was their first kind of implementation, did you have anyone, especially like, your background being from the traditional side, and I think, just from hearing you speak and type of roles you've had, a lot of people at your level, they're more about, okay, they're like coding and things like that, but they're also like innovation, right? Their goal is to kind of deliver. They will be, it doesn't matter what tool they use. But then when you look at hardcore devs, they're very skeptical about it. It's like a
100%.
football team, right? It's like a football team. You ain't going to change, right? Did you have any kind of that, friction internally where there was people who were kind of just not keen on using low code, or was it pretty much just followed?
So I think internally wasn't a problem. I think that, the view that I had initially about development resource was that, we could bring in people with high code experience and transfer them over to OutSystems. And I think that was a challenge. I think some people didn't appreciate or felt that they had a loss of control where, OutSystems is working at a certain level, and they felt that actually that, they are losing a little bit of control there. Whereas, speaking to other UK customers and, they've tried the same thing and succeeded. So I don't think it's a particular problem that's across everyone. I think it's just something that we had experienced. But I've had trained up juniors and they see the benefit of OutSystems. So I think, I would say it's a different experience for everyone, but it's definitely easier if you bring expertise in OutSystems in earlier. You have that core in the team before bringing in anybody else. So I think but in terms of like internal, outside the development team, I believe they don't really care as long as they're delivering software that meets their needs. They don't really care.
Yeah. And obviously you mentioned, Arch wanted to do things fast. Everyone wants to do things quick and get things delivered. In regards to your key implementations, do you feel you achieved the speed that you were kind of hopeful for using low code?
I think so. I mean, the challenges that I probably mentioned in some of my previous comments were more about what the business doesn't know.
Mm.
I think the development speed is definitely quicker. I think that there's no doubt that that is the case. But I think the challenge has always been around getting the stakeholders to really commit to the projects and understand what it is that they actually want. And I think it's only by going through a few projects that actually that becomes a lot clearer and a lot easier for them to understand. So I think the challenges and the things that take the time isn't necessarily the development cycle. It's more around the requirements gathering and understanding what actually is that we're building.
Yeah, yeah. And in regards to kind of measuring, your activities with OutSystems, how do you measure your success with OutSystems?
Well, every project that we have has a return on investment. I mean,
Mm.
otherwise, we're just blindly doing projects because someone said they want to do a project. But no, I mean, obviously, every project has an outcome. And obviously that is due to project governance that we've put in place. We're able to understand what metrics are we going to record at the beginning, and what are we going to record afterwards, and that really enables us to see what the effectiveness of that project is. But in terms of what the team are doing and how effective they are, we obviously do backlog reviews. We do all the standard agile processes of sprint planning and etc. So we're recording what our developers are working on. And that's a good way to kind of play back to the business over the last, quarter. This is what this is where the effort has gone to. So I find it a good metric to kind of look back and see how effective we are as a development team, and what we've produced. Obviously, as well as how well have those projects landed.
Yeah, yeah. And this may not apply to you because you obviously found OutSystems previously already, and you kind of played around with it yourself. But there's a lot of people who, they still have a number of misconceptions around low code, and especially like OutSystems, for example, gets compared to Power Apps, right? Even though there's two different things. Maybe not yourself, but has there been any misconceptions you've come across, whether internally or speaking to other, I think sometimes, I don't know if you're involved in these, but sometimes OutSystems, when they're speaking to other potential clients, they'll bring in an existing client to speak to them and things like that. Have you come across any of these misconceptions yourself?
I guess a few as I speak to people. I think one of the misconceptions is around, particularly with OutSystems, it's only for simple apps and only for internal, applications. I think, like you say, a lot of people come across like Power Apps, and that's their idea of low code, is trying to break that view. Obviously, I'm not trying to sell OutSystems.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But I mean, particularly with my experience of OutSystems, and I know Mendix is one of the others that's the same, is that actually, you can build operational platforms through low code and customer facing applications or mobile applications. Obviously, it's not, particularly with mobile applications, there's certain limits to what you can build. I wouldn't build a game in OutSystems.
Yeah.
But definitely for businesses who are, trying to deploy customer facing portals or mobile applications that enable customer interaction, it's really high up there.
Obviously, right now, and I wouldn't say right now, I think the last few years, and, the words on everyone's kind of coming out of everyone, and the discussions is all around AI. Mainly people in your type of positions want to know what these platforms are doing, where what they can do with AI. I'm interested to know kind of, with AI now kind of really kind of, if my opinion is, there's a race now with all these platforms of,
Yes.
who's going to kind of get the best product, right? And, I'd like to know obviously your opinion on AI, because sometimes I speak to people and they're like, I don't even want to talk about AI right now. I just have heard it so much. To, your opinion on AI, the future and kind of, how the business is thinking about AI.
Yeah, I mean, I think with every business, there's definitely excitement and nervousness. I think one of the challenges, without being a poo poo on AI, is
Yeah.
is basically the legal implications of AI, especially when you're handling customer data. And so that's one of the challenges that we face in terms of adopting uh, business business tools, things like Copilot, ChatGPT, etc. However, I mean, within the development arena, there's quite a lot of excitement around when OutSystems release Mentor,
Yeah.
and how how that can accelerate prototyping. And I think there's still more to come. I think watch this space with
Yeah.
Mentor. I think it's good for creating really basic applications. I think where I would see it being really strong is where you can start building relatively complicated functionality inside the Mentor Studio. Really describing something quite complicated, and it understanding those and being able to deliver those. I mean, I don't see that being that far away. Obviously, OutSystems has a strong community and has a lot of customers building their systems through their platform. So it's a good a good set of patterns to understand, like what's an order form,
Yeah.
what's an invoice, etc. So I think with high code, and particularly with AI helping to develop high code, I think that that's a real complicated space, because the tools that I've used don't really know how to develop. They understand what good code is,
Yeah.
and they're able to deliver functionality, but not necessarily a working functionality. So I think there's still a way to go, but I think with the acceleration, particularly, is helping deliver this technology, because
Yeah.
obviously it's using itself to understand itself better. I think it's going to accelerate rapidly within the business arena. I mean, we're looking at deploying it within our workflows and within application, which I think is where the real power will be. So having your application have AI capability within it as a as a standard is really going to empower us, because I think. And go back to the sort of nervousness from businesses. They see, when you say, right, okay, we're going to adopt AI, it's
Mm.
really, well, oh yeah, how do we go about doing that? And it does seem quite a mammoth task, particularly where you have to adopt another technology. But where I can see the power is within OutSystems, um, is being able to really find a very thin sliver of functionality and be able to deliver an agent into that area. And so it's not a big exercising of deploying AI into your OutSystems factory. It's a small exercise, and then you can monitor that and understand if it's performing to its capabilities. So I see it's like there's lots going
Yeah.
on, but I think it's moving in the right direction. Some things slower than others, but I see the power even now of being able to deliver that agentic AI, like I mentioned,
Yeah.
into your business application.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, obviously, OutSystems, all the platforms are, you mentioned Mentor, there's Workbench, and there's so many other features that they're kind of rolling out. And I think it's
Yes.
only gonna, as AI is evolving and changing so quick, these platforms have to keep up, right? Keep
Yeah.
up and make sure, because obviously there's going to be more demand from, as business leaders like yourself are hearing about these things and you're questioning them. Okay, what have you got on your roadmap?
Yeah.
When are we going to have access to this?
And there's always skills as well that you're missing. You
Yeah.
know, the and skills that we've gained, even looking at the agentic workbench, the
Yeah.
agent work that you mentioned, that we're participating with
Mm.
OutSystems. There's a learning curve. All of these LLMs have
Mm.
different capabilities. So You can deploy an agent, but if you're using the wrong model, it's
Yeah.
not going to perform as well as another. So it's really a challenge around understanding the technology and its capabilities and being able to deploy it into the right area. Now, that's always going to be a challenge
Yeah.
with new technology coming out. You know,
Yeah.
it's able to shift and adjust, and and your developers being able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, obviously, that I think in the conference coming up and, even in the last ones, the analysts are all talking about low code and AI is the right way, and based on what you said, I think, would you say you're in a similar of opinion that, low code with AI is, like you said, traditional with AI is a bit complicated? Do you feel if the low code platforms can get it right, that combination of low code and AI is the right way forward?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said earlier, my experience of high code with AI agents is not a good one. I must admit, it feels like it's a junior developer, that a
Mm.
bad junior developer. But
Yeah.
that's obviously going to get better. But
Yeah.
with AI on top of a platform that already understands you know, patterns, understands how to code. I think it's just another accelerator. Low
Mm.
code is an accelerator, but you put
Yeah.
AI on top of that, it's obviously gonna even accelerate even more. Obviously,
Yeah.
it depends what and then it's about how to understand how to prompt it and what it
Yeah.
needs to know in order to do the thing you're asking it to do. I still, at the moment, yeah, it's definitely the
Yeah.
strongest of the combinations.
Yeah. And you mentioned developers and, AI with developers. And I'm interested to know because obviously, someone like your skill set, for example, you've done Java, you've done multiple roles, right? And then AI comes in the mix, but you still have all this experience you've gained, right? So even when you're working with AI, you'll know something that's not working. Do you feel as AI evolves, the more new age developer, won't be as rounded as I call the old school type, because obviously there's so many things now to accelerate, right? To be that do they really need that understanding? Some would say yes, some would say no. Like my opinion is yes. You
Yeah.
need, the type of developer that everyone's used to knowing is very rounded and knows how to look out for things. And in a business like Arch, for example, if you want to grow in a role within a company, you need to know those different aspects of development. So do you feel like the new kind of level of developers coming through in the next few years might not be at the same caliber?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the things that I used to do aren't necessarily relevant. I think that
Okay.
the main experience that I think I've got over the years is how to deliver technology into business. And I don't think that won't change,
Mm.
because yes, the technology changes, but the fundamentals are still the same. I've got this tool. How do I,
Yeah.
how do I speak to the business about delivering that tool with the most effectiveness? And, the soft skills are still going to be required. I don't think we'll ever get away from talking to each other, though.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think some people would like that. But yeah, you still need those. You still need those soft skills, and then understanding how I'm going to apply those requirements using the technology. And it's just another tool. I just see, particularly with AI, it's just it's another tool that a developer
Yeah.
can use and deliver the change. And, one of our developers was just playing around with AI, and she was, she was like, "Oh, I'm having so much fun. This is so
Yeah.
great." Again, it's just, I think those who are in development just love
Yeah.
playing with new
Yeah.
technology. So
New shiny toy.
new shiny toy,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. And, talking from, now that you've been kind of, how long has it been now without systems? Is it 3 years?
so it'll be 3 years next month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's, for any companies now about to kind of start their low code journey, what being kind of 3 years in, I'm going to combine my question around, what advice would you give them to start off, and, even you looking back at the 3 years, what would you go back and do differently knowing what you know now?
That's a good question. I think it depends. So it will depend on what what your usage is. I think if you're embarking on a small project, then that's a good starting point for using low code. Definitely, you need buy-in. I mean, that's one thing that
Yeah,
and starting small can get that buy-in because
yeah,
you show how OutSystems can or Mendix or a
mm,
low code platform how it can
yeah,
deliver that functionality and the speed that it can deliver. But if you do get that leverage, you just got to be careful not to neglect things like architecture, not to neglect expertise, because I think, like I was saying earlier, um, that it does benefit you having someone that's used the platform before and has got
yeah,
good experience, but also having good practice as well. Making sure that when you do start growing the team, that you're ensuring that you are on the same pages and you are following good patterns, etc. Because I think what happens is if you don't do that, you get buy-in from the business. Suddenly you are embarking on larger and larger projects, and you find yourself having quite a bit of technical debt. It may not show as technical debt, but the architecture might not
yeah.
be as suited, and you're playing catch up a little bit. And I kind of speak from experience because that's what we've found.
Mm,
We've done big projects, and we're having to rework some of the modules because they're not quite in the right architecture, etc. So I think that would be my advice, is just to think about these things when you're starting down this journey.
yeah. And they're the things you'd do kind of if you started again yourself as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Uh,
would probably hire expertise from the beginning to then
yeah.
shape what the platform would and applications look like.
Yeah. Yeah. And finally, what's next for Arch? Can you kind of, as much as you can share, what you have, what you kind of have plans without systems, what you're kind of looking to do going forward?
Yes, I mean like we're on a transformation roadmap. I mean, we're looking to transform the business using technology and that involves quite a few projects.
Yeah.
High level would be customer portals. We don't have customer facing technology at the moment, so we're looking to put in place a customer portal to help our customers communicate with us better. We're looking to expand out our mobile capabilities, looking to roll out inspection. Our site facilities managers do a lot of work out on site, so enabling them to work more effectively when they're looking and helping customers in Arches. And there's more to come, but again, back to the AI, we're looking to
Yeah.
put in practice some of the agentic AI within our processes, particularly around our inquiry processes where customers come to us, tell us what they're looking for. So it's about how do we service that quicker and make the customer experience a lot better. So as you can see, a lot of it is about improving that customer
Yeah.
experience. But there's other projects.
Yeah.
I think we went through an assessment of the projects, and there was 52
Oh,
projects in our pipeline,
wow.
but we've
Wow.
managed to shrink that down. That's the kind of magnitude of
Yeah.
how many projects that we're
Yeah.
sort of is in our pipeline.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to speak to me, Mark. I think, definitely, the journey you've been on with OutSystems at Arch and, even just hearing all the things you're planning with AI evolving, I think it'd be great to speak again in the future and kind of see how things have shaped out, with
Yeah,
the
definitely.
evolution of AI and
Yeah,
the things you've delivered and all these things on the pipeline. Hopefully they're kind of been delivered at that point.
I think in 12 months there'll be definitely a lot to talk about.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think there'll be a whole other conversation about,
Yeah,
that we can have. So I'd be keen to speak again in the
yeah,
future
definitely.
and, hear more about what you're doing. So I really appreciate you speaking with me.
No problem.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Ross.